Hey there, Agile Adventurer. Just a quick question. What if, for the price of a fancy coffee or half a pizza, you could unlock over 700 hours of the best Agile content on the planet? That's audio, video, e-courses, books, presentations, all that you can think of. But you can also join live calls with world-class practitioners and hang out in a flame war-free and AI slop-clean Slack with the sharpest minds in the game. Oh, and yes, you get direct access to me, Vasco, your Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. No, this is not a drill. It's the Scrum Master Toolbox membership. And it's your unfair advantage in the Agile world. So if you want to know more, go check out scrummastertoolbox.org/membership. That's scrummastertoolbox.org/membership. And check out all the goodies we have for you. Do it now. But if you're not doing it now, let's listen to the podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Team Tuesday. This week, we have joining us from the Netherlands, Aimé Flemm. Hey, Aimé, welcome back.
Hi there.
So Team Tuesday, of course, is today, but we always start with an inspiration. So, Aimé, share with us, what was the book that most inspired you in your career as a Scrum Master?
I have two for you in the offering, actually. So,
we get one for free.
Yes. So I think the first book that really opened my eyes, and I had to read twice because I was like, wow, this is like the Holy Bible, was Large Scale Scrum, More with Less, from Bas Voddy and Greg Larman. I remember reading this for the first time, and I think I read it in 2 weeks, the whole book. And I was just constantly texting all the people like, oh, well, it all makes sense now. I finally know what to do, because there's so much information in there on how to get your change going, what the structure could look like, workshops you could try, all these beautiful tools wrapped in one book and in a nice story. And I think it's a pleasant reading experience. And I could highly recommend reading this book to anyone who wants to find ways to be creating more of an adaptive organization. So really on the how, but then you also have the what and the why. And there I would like to focus on another book, which recently came out, which was 10x Org by Alexei Kravitsky, Roland Flemm, and Craig Larman. And they really dive into the truly systemic approach to organizational change and how to involve management. Because I think More with Less is more focused on the people side and also a bit on management. But management likes a 2x2 and just an overview on, hey, where do we optimize this organization for, and where should we move, and what does the market require from us? And they have a beautiful map in which you can use like visual language to explain to management, but also to the people, hey, this is currently how we're structured. This is what the market requires from us. Well, where should we change? How should we change? And I think, both are so truly, truly valuable. And if you have time spare, I would recommend them reading.
And for those of you who are not yet convinced, check out the link to the episodes with both authors of both books, Bas Voddy and Roland Flemm. So check it out. The episode link is in the show notes. Definitely worth listening to the episodes, even if you read the book, but it can also be a great way to dip your toes into the ideas in the book and then read it, of course. So, Aimé, thank you very much for sharing those great recommendations. Now we turn our attention to the teams and how sometimes they can become their own worst enemies. We've all witnessed it. Teams that start well or perhaps were not that well to begin with, but they kind of find this rut and then they just start digging into it and things can spiral out of control. Mm-hmm. And eventually the team can self-destroy. So we'll identify and catalog all of the root causes later, but tell us the story first, Aimé.
Yeah. So when I heard this question, I'm instantly thinking of more the destructive tendencies of a team are the consequence of how organization is actually structured. Because most often, I truly believe culture follows structure. So habits come from a team are often a cause of the boundaries set by the organization. And I think it's your role as a Scrum Master to really look at these boundaries, to set the right conditions, to make sure that the team starts acting in a certain way. For example, circling back to this first gig where I worked in this pension fund, there it was really clear that the constraints set by the organization was this UX team will only do UX. That's all. And there's really clear boundaries. But then they really start complaining and becoming like toxic because we are making so many screens and nobody's using them and we are not allowed to test with the customer. And there was this toxicity and the teams were really struggling with finding their place. And the system is so big that as a Scrum Master, it's really hard to change compared to this organization where I'm currently working, where we had the mandate as a Scrum Master to set these boundaries of broader teams with more end-to-end capabilities. And there you see really that there's way more team performance because there was less complaining about other stuff, but not about the dependencies, because often these dependencies with other teams just cause frustration. And yeah, I think it's your job as Scrum Master to try and fix these, but it's also the hardest job to fix because culture follows structure. And one of Larman's laws is the organization is organized in such a way that middle management and upper management try to have the status quo stay as it is. And to change this is the hardest part, but I think the most important one. And as you see, in my first experience, because I tried too fast, too quickly, too boldly to try and change the status quo, I got fired. But the moment that we did get the mandate to change this and move from, so a bit of context about this organization, they used to have component teams. There were 7 of them. So backend, billing, whatever. And they each had their own product owner, and we were able to move to one product owner with 7 teams. And we reorganized the teams that they had full end-to-end capability to work on the product. Like there's one product, they made a backend software for charging stations for your electric car. And you'll get different problems because it's always a trade-off. Whatever you do, there's no silver bullet. It's always a trade-off. But it really improved morale compared to the component teams because they were not in this dependency hell anymore. It was more focused on, we need to talk to each other to fix stuff, but we're allowed to.
Yeah, the people problems don't disappear when the structure works, but the structure problems disappear.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, and that helps.
Yeah, I'm reminded of your bio, the last phrase you had in the bio is, you can't coach your way out of a broken organizational design. Mm-hmm. And I think that this idea of the component versus feature teams is a great example of that, right? Because if what you want is ownership and faster cycle time or lead time, depending on what you're focusing on at the moment, then component teams give you that. Mm-hmm. Sorry, feature teams give you that. Yes. But component teams have structural meaning, right? Like it's the whole idea. Like I am a front-end developer, right? Like there's this guy that I follow online that talks about this identity function, right? Mm-hmm. And the manager of a front-end team will never want to give that away.
Right.
Because they have been front-end developers. Like, why would I give that away? I know everything about front-end. I perhaps even designed the original front-end architecture for this thing. I've been on this for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. In a pension fund, probably 25 years. And then you're not going to want to change that. Like, it's not that you're a bad person. It's that what's out there, what's beyond the component team, it's the total unknown.
Exactly. And so it depends, right? So if is your organization fit for purpose? That's the question that you should be able to answer. And it could well be that having these component teams, these specialized teams, is fit for purpose because that's what the market requires from you. An example could be construction companies often have like really strict plannings, and we need people who are really well at welding stuff to weld in this specific week. Could be like the component team, the welding team, you know, or you want if you have it, if you're running a movie, you want the actors to do acting and the dancers to do dancing, and you know when to do it, you want to have them. But when there comes more uncertainty, then you want to be a bit more adaptive, right? So we had the first wave of agile. We created feature teams so that we can become more adaptive. But often we see that the feature teams still only work on features and not necessarily the whole product. And you have speed often as an outcome more than adaptive actually. So we became really fast. But fast does not mean customer value. But it doesn't always mean customer value. That's why we have this third move right up on the map in org topologies. Where the adaptive organization is, where you often see like the less framework, and we saw this at the company I'm working at now, is that we truly became more adaptive because we had teams working on the whole product in sprints of 2 weeks. So if the switching costs were really low, because if in Wednesday we decided, we want to do something else next week, we'll refine it on Thursday, Tuesday sprint change, and then we can already switch to 7 teams to do something else. And then you're really adaptive on the organizational level.
Yeah, but adaptive also brings other problems, right? Like, and that's the ability to discuss this coherently. Yes. That allows us to create that fit for purpose quality for the organization. A very simple example is that feature teams have the problem that they move fast, but they don't keep coherence. In other words, if you have 5 feature teams working on the same parts of the system with different goals, they will have 5 different reasons to make design decisions, which may lead to an incoherent overall architecture. It's a risk. It's not a certainty, but it's a risk, right? So we need to be aware, and I think you said it very well, we need to have the right organization for the purpose we have today. And that brings me to the next question, which is something I'm dealing with right now at a client, which is this idea that, well, I mean, if we want to be fit for purpose, we should spend some time defining what the purpose is, because in a software organization or an organization that delivers value through software, the purpose shouldn't be more software.
Yeah. So I think there are 2 ways in which you could tackle this question, right? If there's one product owner, then the product owner probably has a vision that you could sharpen, and then from there you could really easily find the purpose of the organization. Because then I would focus on answering the question, what change do we want to see in the world? And the organization is the vehicle to bring that change. If not there, because organization complexity, you have more POs and they all have their own vision, then it's really, I think, a case of sitting down with higher management and looking at the strategy. Where do we expect to be, in the future? Where do we want to be? And having these more strategy discussions. But that's difficult because in the company that I've worked, your strategy could also be make as much money as possible. That's a really difficult strategy because that does not motivate at all.
And also it's not really a strategy, it's a wish, right? Because we need to figure out, okay, but make more money how?
Yeah, right. So money is the outcome. It's not the goal itself. That's yeah.
So we need to figure out, and I think that's the key, right? Because the shift from component teams to feature teams obviously makes sense if your goal is to be more adaptive to whatever comes, right? So Obviously, the less stable the market is, the more adaptive you want to be. The more stable the market is, the more you can survive not being so adaptable, right?
Yes.
And I think that kind of discussion is so important. And that's why, as you said, like you can't coach yourself out of a bad organizational design. You need to start first from the purpose. What is the purpose? And then you can start asking, okay, what organization would help us get there?
Yeah, fully agree. I think as you mentioned, the coaching is like the cherry on top. It's less 5% of the real gains you can make. And the big improvements are really in the structural changes you could do. But it's not only organizational structure, right? So people are, uh, you have other assets, which referring to the model of course, I forget, so I'll let you know. But there are 5 things you could change really to have this outcome of culture and see the change in behavior. Organizational structure is one of those, but you also have the processes. So those are more like your stand-ups and the way you do the meetings, whatever Scrum, Less could all be. The people, do we have the right people in the organization for the culture that we want? And do they have the right skills? Very important, because often if you want to become more adaptive, you don't want very deep specialism, but you want more of these M-shaped people. So you can create a tool we made. This was actually really cool, and I'm also quite proud of to have people change. You want to, which is the 4th one, reward people for a certain behavior, which is really primitive, but it works. And then one of the tools you can make as a Scrum Master or help make is build a competency matrix, which rewards certain career paths. Because if your career is only rewarded for getting deeper specialism, then you'll get a deeper specialism, and it's the only thing you'll do. But if you're able to change with HR or maybe you don't even need HR. In our case, we did need HR to be part of the change because they, in the end, are the ones that sign it off to make it like an official document. Change the requirements for each level, junior, senior, media, level 1 to 5, whatever you use, and see if you can fit things in, like if you want to be more adaptive, make people more multi-skilled and reward them for becoming more multi-skilled.
We'll find the link to that model and put it in the show notes. Make sure that people can go and read more about it. It's a great conversation. Thank you for sharing that, Aimé.
Awesome.
All right, I hope you liked this episode. But before you hit next episode, here's the deal. This podcast is powered by people like you, the members who wanted more than just inspiration. They wanted real tools and real connection to people who are practicing Agile every day. We're talking access to over 700 hours of Agile Gold, CTO level strategy talks, summit keynotes, live workshops, e-courses, deep dive interviews, books, and if you're into no estimates, we got the pioneers of no estimates in those deep dive interviews as well. Agile business intelligence, creating product visions, coaching your product owner courses, you name it. You'll get invites to monthly live Q&As with Agile pioneers and practitioners, plus a private Slack community, which is free of all of that AI slop you see everywhere, and of course, without the flame wars. It's a community of practitioners that want to learn and thrive together. It's the best place to connect with community and learn together. So if this podcast has helped you before, imagine what you will get from this podcast membership. So head on over to scrummastertoolbox.org/membership and join the community that's shaping the future of Agile. And we have so much for you. So check out all the details at scrummastertoolbox.org/membership, because listening is great, it's important, but doing it together, That's next level. I'll see you in the community Slack. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.